it's time to be honest. Parkwood, Columbia, whoever, Parkwood, it's time to let Chloe and Halle go.
You should not sign to an artist who's still actively making music if you are making music.
Everyone loves to say Chloe and Halle broke up too soon.
Right as the general public was getting invested to them as a duo, they split up like that and tried to get them invested as individuals. But that's a big jump.
The pressure to become a multifaceted artist has ruined good music.
I think being in this industry, you get caught up sometimes in thinking, I have to be perfect. I have to be prim. Everybody has to look at me and I have to not make any mistakes. And I think what I'm learning, all of those real and authentic things about yourself are what are the most beautiful, and you should embrace them.
There's something incredibly frustrating about watching an artist who's clearly got it all get treated like she doesn't. Halle Bailey has the kind of voice that makes you stop what you're doing. It's the voice that got her cast as the Little Mermaid, the voice that made Beyoncé sign her, and the voice that helped build one of the most respected R&B duos in recent years, Chloe x Halle. And now she's stepping into her own solo career, or at least she's trying to, because while Halle is out here dropping music, starring in major films, and literally singing like an angel, her solo rollout feels less like a moment and more like a background event. Quiet drops, minimal promo, confused fans wondering if she's even releasing an album or just testing the waters. And don't get me wrong, this isn't about her talent, that's not up for debate. If anything, the problem is that the industry doesn't seem to know what to do with her kind of talent. So in this video, we're gonna talk about Halle Bailey's career, what's working, what's being mishandled, and why someone this talented deserves a rollout that actually makes sense. So without further ado, let's dive in. First of all, let's make one thing clear. Halle Bailey isn't someone the industry had to build from scratch. She came preloaded with everything labels dream of. Let's go back to the beginning. Before she was Disney royalty or a viral red carpet moment, Halle was one half of Chloe x Halle. And if you weren't there during that era, let me catch you up. This was not your average sister duo. These girls were writing, producing, and arranging their own music as teenagers. Their debut album was Grammy nominated. Their second album was a cultural reset. It was smooth, mature, it was quality. People weren't saying these girls are good for their age. They were saying this is what the industry should sound like. And Halle, she was the calm power in the duo, the kind of vocalist that didn't need to overdo anything. Just one note and you knew she had range, not just vocally but emotionally too. So when both sisters decided to explore solo careers, it felt exciting. It didn't feel like a breakup, more like a graduation. It made sense. They had already mastered being a duo. It was time to grow individually. And for Halle, the potential was limitless. She had the voice, she had the artistic credibility, she had acting chops. She was cast as Ariel in The Little Mermaid, arguably one of the most pressure-filled roles you can be given as a black woman in Hollywood, and Halle nailed it. She even had mainstream interest beyond music. People genuinely liked her. They were rooting for her not just because she was talented, but because she came across as authentic. She wasn't chasing clout. She wasn't trying to prove anything. She just was. Which makes what happens next all the more confusing, because when someone has this much raw skill, this much cultural goodwill, and this much star power, you expect the industry to move mountains. But for some reason, when it came time for Halle to step into her solo era, things got quiet. Very, very quiet. So picture this, you're a rising superstar, you have just played Ariel in Disney's live action The Little Mermaid, one of the most iconic roles in pop culture history. Millions of little girls are dressing like you, people are crying in theaters hearing you sing part of your world. You've done press tours, red carpets, and built massive momentum. Naturally, your first solo single should be a major event like shut the internet down level of hype. Instead, Halle Bailey dropped Angel like she was trying not to wake a baby. Just a quiet post on Instagram and a music video released that, while beautiful, felt almost under the radar.
Don't know what's going on. I am releasing a song tonight, my own song by myself, and it's called Angel, my first solo record, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear it. So it drops at 9 PST, so that means in about 20-ish, 25-ish minutes.
And that's not even me being dramatic. Some fans literally didn't find out the song existed until days later. Imagine that you have Beyoncé as your mentor, a lead role in a billion-dollar Disney machine, and your first solo single ever gets treated like a B-side. Now let's talk numbers. Angel didn't debut on the Billboard Hot 100. It barely got playlisted on major Spotify editorial lists. You know, the ones every new artist depends on. Yeah, not there. But more importantly, it should have trended. The vocals were stunning, the lyrics were empowering. And on top of that, it had a deeply personal message about black girlhood and identity. But because the rollout was almost non-existent, the song got buried, and that's heartbreaking. Then came In Your Hands, another gorgeous track. And another soft release, same cycle, low promotion, low push, but high talent. It almost feels like Halle's career is being quietly sabotaged by silence. And here's where it gets weird. It's not like she doesn't have visibility. Netflix press tours, award shows, even baby rumors with DDG were trending more than her music. So why is it that the noise around her personal life is louder than the push for her actual art? Let's be honest, if this was any other artist, someone less vocally gifted, labels would be throwing money at a debut album, a TikTok campaign, a live performance on Fallon, just something. But Halle, she's been left to launch a solo career without nothing but a ring light, a few reposts, and her raw talent. It's giving, we'll drop this and see what happens. That's not strategy, that's neglect. Because here's what happens when you treat a once-in-a-generation voice like background noise. The industry starts to believe the story you're telling, and the story they're telling right now is that Halle's solo music isn't worth pushing, even though it clearly is. Okay, so we've established that Halle has the voice, the look, the platform, and somehow her solo rollout still felt like a soft whisper in a hurricane. So let's ask the uncomfortable question. Who's responsible for that? Well, welcome to Parkwood Entertainment, Beyoncé's label. Now, before anyone says anything, no, this is not a Beyoncé slander video, but we have to be honest, something's off about the way Parkwood handles solo careers. On paper, this sounds like the best possible situation. You're signed to one of the most powerful women in music. You would assume you're in good hands, right? But here's the thing, we've seen this before. When Chloe went solo, she had more visibility than Halle. She was given full-blown performances, creative music videos, and a carefully curated Instagram feed, and even even with all of that, the rollout still felt shaky. Songs were dropped and then quietly forgotten. Her debut album, In Pieces, had powerful moments, but it didn't feel like the label really backed it. I actually made a whole video about Chloe and her solo career, what's working, what's not working, why it's not working, so if you're interested, you can check it out right there. And now looking at Halle's rollout, it's even more muted, like they didn't even pretend to care this time. It's hard not to feel like Parkwood just doesn't know what to do with these women once they go solo. And I get it, when you're in Beyonce's orbit, the bar is basically unreachable. People expect artistry, innovation, and a moment every time you step on stage, but that doesn't mean you leave your artist to figure it out on their own. What's worse is that Halle's debut had something most new artists pray for: natural promo. Between her Disney role, acting gigs, public relationship, and fashion moments, she had people watching. All Parkwood had to do was meet the internet with a solid plan, but instead of capitalizing on her visibility, they dropped singles like Side Quests and moved on. And look, I'm not saying Beyonce owes anyone anything. She's an icon, she's busy, she's running a brand, she has a whole family to take care of, but what's the point of having your own label if your artists aren't getting the kind of attention they deserve, especially when they're this talented? It's almost ironic because Beyonce's entire career was built on mastering the solo transition. From Destiny's Child to Dangerously in Love, she showed us how to break out from a group and own it. So why is it that her own proteges are struggling to do the same? And before anyone says maybe they're just not ready, let me remind you, Halle is more than ready. She's doing press, she's performing, she's dropping music, she's staying visible, but without a real team effort behind her, she's forced to carry everything herself. Here's what makes all of this extra frustrating. People actually care about Halle, like a lot. Anytime she breathes on the internet, she trends. Whether she's walking a red carpet, singing a cover in her living room, or just existing on TikTok, people notice. The fan base is there, the respect is there, and the engagement more than there. So why is the industry acting like it's not? She has already carved out a distinct identity without even dropping a full project. The public is ready for her. They have been ready. What they're not getting is consistency or clarity. Because here's the problem. You can have all the talents in the world, but if the machine behind you is slow, disorganized, or unbothered, that momentum just fizzles. Halle doesn't need hype manufactured out of thin air. She just needs a real plan to meet the interest that already exists, because right now she's being treated like a niche artist when she's literally mainstream material. And I know some people might say, well, maybe she doesn't want to be overly commercial, maybe she wants to keep it low-key, fair, but there's a difference between intentional minimalism and your label just not showing up for you. People like Halle, not just her voice, she comes across as soft-spoken but grounded, sweet but non-performative. There's a deep affection for her that the industry keeps underestimating, and eventually, if the machine keeps stepping on her, the fans will start calling it what it is, a failure of management. Because here's the truth, audiences are doing their part. They're showing up, streaming the songs, leaving heartfelt comments, begging for more, and Halle, she's doing her part too. So the only thing left is for the system around her to wake up and actually act like she's the star she already is. That's it for today's video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this one. I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think Halle's career is being held back, or is this all part of a longer strategy? I would love to hear your take. And if you have any suggestions for future videos, I'm always open. I love reading your comments and looking at suggestions. And with that being said, thank you for being here, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you very soon.